What's going on, folks? My name is Josh. You guys are watching The Outdoor Dude. Thanks for coming back to the channel. Today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 easy tips for better bank fishing for the beginner. Let's go. Now, some of these tips are going to be more important than the next, but all of them will have some value for the beginner angler. So make sure you stick around to the end. Tip number 1, guys, use the heaviest line you can get away with. Now, I say this for a variety of reasons, but I have a ton of experience bank angling, and I often find myself in very overgrown and untamed areas.
No. Big flip.
Meaning that there are all sorts of vines, sticks, weeds, and tree branches and bushes that you can get your line and bait stuck in. And using the heaviest line you can get away with will ensure that you're gonna get your bait back. Now, when I'm fishing on the boat and I get stuck on the bank or stuck in a tree, I often have a chance to bring the boat to the bank and I get to get my $5 to $20 back. But when you're bank fishing, you do not always have that luxury. So the stronger the line, the more likely you're gonna get your bait back. And this also goes for the fish. Sometimes that fish is in the thick stuff. And if you have light line and you're too worried about getting hung up, you're gonna be less likely to throw your bait in the thick stuff where that fish is living. And in turn, you're missing out on a really good bite. Big fish are often like big deer, and they're aggressive, and they get the best real estate first. When the heat of the summer comes in, those fish are often in that thick stuff. Tip number 2, bring a second reel in your pack. Now, this tip is for the beginner, but it may come in handy for the expert. It may seem like overkill, but after well over a decade of bank fishing experience, I think it's incredibly necessary. Think about it this way. You're a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles away from your car. You've been fishing this long body of water all day. You're hammering fish, having a great time. Now you get a bad backlash. It's the kind that'll end your day. Everyone gets a backlash, no one's immune to it. Most of the time you can get them out, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's a day ruiner. And if you're 3 miles away from your car, you got one rod and reel on you, and you just backlashed, but you're on a bite, having an extra reel in your pack could really come in handy. Now, tip number 3 may be a perceived less value tip to this video, but I think it's incredibly important because 2 is 1 and 1 is none. And you should bring an extra pair of nail clippers, scissors, pliers, something that allows you to cut your line, whether it's a knife in your pocket. Bring something. The last thing you want to do is be a mile or 2 away from your vehicle and you got nothing to cut your line. So you got to use your teeth. I have crowns. I can't do that. So having an extra pair of nail clippers, super lightweight, gets the job done on braid and just about everything else, can really save your day. You never know when you're gonna forget them or lose them, and it will happen. It's just a matter of when. Tip number 4, guys, re-tie often. This is something you see beginners making the mistake of, and experts have obviously learned, and you see them retying all the time. It tends to stem from not being good at tying knots or not knowing a lot of knots, so you shy away from tying knots in general. To get around this, a lot of beginners will run a snap swivel, and I know this by experience because when I was a kid and a beginner angler, I didn't know any knots, and I would run a snap swivel and have somebody else tie it for me. I even did this on my first YouTube video that I ever filmed over 5 years ago, and it's still on the channel. Now, when I did this, I used to say it was to change lures quickly, and that was my excuse, when in reality, it was because I wasn't that good at tying knots. I only knew like 2, and I didn't want to waste a lot of time on video just tying one knot. When in reality, once you get good at your knots, you can often cut a lure off and tie a new knot and refresh that knot faster than you can change a lure on a snap swivel. Now, with most bait situations, and I say most, the benefit of tying directly to the bait will by far outweigh any perceived benefit you think you're getting by running a snap swivel. Now, like I said, for most baits, this isn't directed to some experienced anglers that might be using snap swivels for a variety of different reasons. I'm talking about the beginner that's using it so they don't have to tie knots. All right, now let's talk about how often you should re-tie. There's a general rule of thumb that I like to go by, and that's 1 big fish, 3 average fish. Now, what a big fish is can change depending on where you are in the country, so let's go off of Any 3 fish under 3 pounds, I like to retie. And then if I get 1 fish over 3 pounds, I'm going to retie. Now, often fishing here in the Northeast, you're going to catch some pike or some pickerel, maybe even some walleye. A lot of toothy critters swimming in our waters. So if you catch one of those, you retie immediately. Now, tip number 5 is going to seem like a low value tip, but I promise you this one is a high value tip. It's the reason why kayakers are so elated with getting to the backwater and the less traveled waters. And this tip is to get in there. I often go to some local ponds, local canal, a few different spots where people have a lot of access. And I generally see on the canal, I see a lot of people going from the parking lot, maybe a quarter mile, and they don't go any further. People usually sit by the road, by the bridge, and they fish that one piece of structure. They are missing out because the further the year goes on, the fish are pressured in that area and they move further away from the high pressured area. The same goes for a pond. There's a local pond that I fish at a lot, and half of this pond is mowed and cleared out and it's well manicured, and you can see there's a few beat down spots on the bank about 20 to 30 yards away from each other, and they're beat down to the dirt where people will stand still and fish. The other side of the pond is overgrown. Few deer trails over there, and I use those deer trails to get on the other side of the pond and fish the side less traveled. As the season goes on, the fish become more pressured, and they tend to start to live on the other side of the pond, where they're more likely to be left alone. And as the season progresses, you're gonna have to put some miles on those shoes. All right, guys, if you found any value out of this video, make sure you smash that like button for me. Hit the subscribe button and click that notification bell so YouTube notifies you when I do a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time. Just cruising out in front of me in this clear water, and I'm wondering if I can get it to bite on this wacky rig. Got two. Are they gonna compete for it? It's a deeper bed, so I need this thing to sink right to it. Let's go. This is the one. Come on. Got him. That's a way better fish. That's the one. Yes. Finished it out bed fishing. That's how you finish the day, dude. I got him right off that bed. Or the female, maybe? I think that was the female. Yes, jig down the throat, dude.